Things do not seem okay down in Tuscaloosa.
Get ready for the 3-point stance. 3 different minds, 3 different opinions. 3 dudes talking ball. It's Kenton. It's Jay. It's Zach. Time to bring the heat, boys.
Oh, it is the 3-point stance, your newest college football show here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Zac Blackerby, Jay Smith, Kenton Gibbs, hanging out with you every single day. Did Missouri get exposed on Saturday? Who should be the real favorite for the Heisman Trophy? But we'll start things off with the national story. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. I still can't believe it. Jay, when you saw that this was still a 2-score game in the second half, I personally just thought, okay, it's only a matter of time until Alabama figures it out. But Vandy stayed aggressive. They chose to play to continue to win, and we've seen so many teams not do that against Alabama. It was pretty crazy to see.
Yeah, it was pretty wild because for me, I was sending a text message to a buddy of mine that's an Alabama fan, and I said, all right, Ryan Williams going to do something, right? Then Ryan Williams scored a touchdown. I was like, okay, see, this is what's going to happen. But then Vanderbilt scored. And I'm like, wait a minute. So Ryan Williams going to do this again, right? And Ryan Williams did not do it again. At that point, it was a done deal. So I went back and looked at the numbers. This is the wildest stat. There's 2 crazy stats that came out of this game. First and foremost was the time of possession. Do you know the time of possession in that game was Vanderbilt 42, Alabama 17? That's absurd. I've never seen a team play keep away and be that successful on a college football field. That is the wildest just differential in possession. So Vanderbilt basically took their game plan and said, we're going to keep the ball out of Milroe's hands and not let Ryan Williams eat us alive.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to just keep moving the chains. Diego Pavia, 16 for 20. So basically 4 incompletions. For the most part, all they did was keep the clock rolling. Fantastic and massive job by Clark Lane. Shout out to Vanderbilt for pulling off that W.
Yeah, Kenton, in this era of a 12-team playoff now, like this loss doesn't seem as catastrophic, in my opinion, to Alabama. You buying that? Yes or no?
I agree that the loss isn't catastrophic. I 1,000% agree to that. However, Nick Saban ain't walking through that door. This is a very different Bama team than what we've seen for a ton of reasons. The ways in which a 5th-year or 4th-year captain in Malachi Moore acted a complete and total donkey in that game was a moment for me of, oh man, this is different. Because why didn't somebody come pull him off the field? Why didn't some of the other captains say, hey man, we don't do that here? The standard is the standard. And when you set a certain standard, I'm going to tell you something right now. I'll take y'all back to Cass Tech for a second. Up there in Detroit, Michigan, 2501 Cass, 2nd Avenue, it means something to have that CT on your chest or on your helmet, and it means even more to have that C on your chest. You have to conduct yourself in a certain way in order to have that, and it is spilling over on the field what the problems are there because you struggle against a USF team that turns out to be complete and utter dog water, and then you come into this game and you look terrible after Georgia. This team is more up and down than they ever should be.
Yeah, and I saw somebody try to make the argument of, oh, well, maybe coach didn't see Malachi Goodman's antics. I'm like, no, he kicked the football. There was a flag. They said the number. He was aware, and he kept him on the field. Luke Robinson, host of Locked On Bama, he thinks everything's okay.
There are a bunch of reasons to hate on Alabama and even more to hate on Kalen DeBoer and some of his staff picks this year. I understand that. But I still believe right now he's the right man for this job to bring Alabama where it needs to be. Obviously, it's a step back yesterday. That's going to happen. And now we get to see what kind of coach he's going to be because he's going to be faced with immense pressure. And it's going to be absolutely incredible. And it's going to weigh very heavy on him. And not every coach in the country would be able to withstand this. Let's see if he's got the mettle to do it. I believe he does. He has been a winner everywhere he's been. I see no reason to think he won't continue to be a winner here. It is a new era of college football too. So a loss like this doesn't necessarily kill you. But I understand why most people feel like yesterday was the death of successful Alabama football.
Kenton, what say you?
I mean, again, I'm not worried about the loss in and of itself. I'm worried about the fact that a team, like a person, is an amalgamation of your habits. And you cannot have the habit of depending on 17-year-old freaks of nature as your winning strategy. With all due respect, I don't care how good you are. I don't care if it's Ryan Williams, if it's Jeremiah Smith, if it's any of these other freshman wide receivers that can moss anybody. Your strategy to win cannot be, we're going to lean on that guy. It does not work that way in college football. And even beyond that, Alabama's offense ain't the problem right now. They're just not. We saw multiple games where teams successfully played keep away by running the football on Alabama. What is going on? I know that Marcel Darius and Mark Barron and Dontari Poe and all those big guys are just rolling over, throwing up, saying, wait a minute, what is this? What's happening right now? Because this is something that feels so unfamiliar to Bama, to have, again, a Bama team not be beat by freak athletic plays that we saw with like Texas A&M and Johnny Football and Mike Evans and all that. You're getting beat by teams saying, hey, we're going to punch you in the face repeatedly, and we don't think your hands work like ours do, so put the dukes up. We're gonna move some furniture around and we'll be all right. What?
Yeah, Vandy just lined up and beat him. And especially at the end when everybody in the stadium and the millions of people watching on TV knew that Vandy was going to keep the ball on the ground, and they still were able to pick up first down after first down. And it's like, wow, it's crazy. Let's spin this. Jay, what does this say about Vanderbilt in your mind?
Oh, it says that Vanderbilt understands their personnel and know exactly how to use them, right? Also, being a tactician in this game is critical if you want to win games against teams that are quote-unquote superior compared to you. Vanderbilt recognized Georgia put Alabama in hell in the second half, right? That defense did a great job to start off. They had Georgia on the ropes, and then all of a sudden, Georgia was able to storm back. Why? That defense was exhausted. And this is only a week ago. So that tells you perfectly that Vanderbilt's like, oh yeah, we're going to bounce back off that, and we're going to keep that defense on the field. And so the strategy there, it felt like I was watching like an Army game or Navy playing against somebody where they're running the triple option nonstop with a whole bunch of undersized dudes, because it's really hard to defend the triple option. It's just that the wing tee, whatever, flex bone, all of them are hard to defend because of all the movement. Clark realized that, look, we need to find a way just to get these dudes moving in space constantly and get them tired. And they succeeded. I mean, I looked at these possessions. They start off 10 plays, 17 plays, 8 plays, 6 plays, and they punted it after 6. That's not something that's common with Alabama. I'm used to seeing 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out on a regular basis. They had only one possession that was 4 plays, and they scored a touchdown. That, to me, tells me that defense got some problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, who needs to be the real Heisman favorite? Is he in Boise? Is he somewhere else? We discuss in just a moment right here on today's 3-Point Stance.
When you're hiring for your small business and want to find quality professionals that are right for the role, that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team fast and for free. So if you're looking for a new engineer, you're looking for a new salesperson, heck, you may be looking for a new cosmetologist. LinkedIn's got you taken care of. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those that aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. And on LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. So check them out. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
So in case folks didn't mention or somehow catch it, Ashton Jeanty, the Boise State superstar running back, eclipsed 1,000 yards on the season, and it's barely October. It's incredible. Is this a guy who needs to be the favorite for the Heisman Trophy right now just because of his incredible numbers? Kenton, we'll start with you.
I think he should absolutely be in contention. And I think that him winning it is absolutely a thing that needs to happen because we've done the Heisman wrong for far too long. I want to make Ashton Jeanty's case first, and then I'll talk about why we're doing the Heisman wrong. Number one, that man is not playing all 4 quarters in all of his games. He's not. And the numbers that he's putting up, if you do extrapolate those over a full season, almost all of the records would be his, especially if you add in 2 more quarters against, feckless teams that people call stat games. Those are not his stat games, actually, because his tail is coming out. So, I mean, what we are seeing in this dominance, and he hasn't even had his opportunity for his true Heisman moments yet, because they still have UNLV that while they may be out of the top 25 this week, the Rebels made their first ever appearance in the AP top 25 just a week ago. But now to go to the Heisman at large, Zac Blackerby, do you believe that there has never been a defender that's been the best player in college football?
No, I don't believe that.
Jay Smith, do you believe that there's never been a player outside in the last, let's say 40 years or so, outside of the Power 4 now, formerly Power 5, that was the best player in the country?
Absolutely not. I do not believe that. I've seen it with my eyes.
So I don't understand how it keeps falling into that category every single time of either you're a quarterback or you're the best player on the Power 5 team, or you just so happen to be the quarterback on the national championship team where you're the best player, or you put up video game numbers on a team that's not going to a national championship. It's unfair to every other position. Running backs deserve more looks at it. Defenders deserve more looks at it. And group of 5 players deserve more looks at it. I don't give a damn if you play in the MAC, the WAC, the Mountain West, the Conference USA, the American Athletic Conference. If you can ball, you can ball. Have game, will travel. The fact that we do not allow these players to have an equal shot at it just because they don't play the same or inferior opponents, whatever the case may be, is ridiculous. You can only play who's in front of you. And if you dominate who's in front of you to the level that shows you are more impactful to your team than anybody in the Power 4, then that's just what it is.
Yeah. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. It should go to the best player in college football. So who is that? Barrett Sallee, he's the host of Locked On College Football Smothered and Covered. He's a Heisman voter. He kind of gives us his thought process at this point in the season.
Ashton Jeanty mania has taken over the college football world after the Boise State running back topped the 1,000-yard mark on the young season. Should he be the Heisman Trophy favorite? The answer is no. Take nothing away from what he's done, but on our ballots, it says the most outstanding player in college football. That's Travis Hunter of the Colorado Buffaloes. Yes, Ashton Jeanty's a great running back, but he doesn't play defense. Travis Hunter does. He's the best lockdown corner in the country, and at wide receiver, he's one of the top wide receivers in the country as well. Take nothing away from what the Boise State stud has done. Travis Hunter should still be number 1.
He's got a point there with the outstanding player side. Now, I can make an argument for Ashton Jeanty because Ashton Jeanty's on a route to do something we haven't seen since Barry Sanders did in 1988, right?
Sure, right.
If he can put up a Barry Sanders type season, because this is the thing about the Heisman. This has always been my thought and philosophy behind it. The years that quarterbacks don't win it is because another position did something so outstanding that you have no choice but to recognize it, or the quarterbacks suck. Right? And so we're not in a year where quarterbacks are sucking. We're in a year where 2 players are doing some ridiculous stuff. And if they can both keep this up, it's going to be a Heisman for the ages. Ashton Jeanty needs to go out there and get about 2,500 yards rushing this season, which he is roughly on pace of doing. He's just about 2,400 yards on pace to do that if he keeps up what he's doing now. The man rushed for 192 yards against Oregon, right? We asked, well, who's the competition they played against? He ran for 192 against Oregon. That's all I needed to see, right? He did 259 against Washington State. Sure, they're lower in. You could consider them lower in power 4 teams, but he's in a quote unquote G6 team, right? So he shouldn't be able to do these numbers. He's cooking. by himself. Now, I'm not taking away from Travis Hunter on this, because if Travis Hunter can pull up 1,000 yards receiving with like 6 or 7 interceptions, he's probably going to win it, because we haven't seen that ever. That's the reason why you win this award. It's all about seeing stuff you've never seen before, or something that's just so absurd that you cannot not recognize it.
Yeah. To me, the issue with all of this, and for Jeanty, the Heisman's a popularity contest at this point. And I don't know if there's enough buzz around anything in Boise that could compete with, just everybody who watches college football, whether you watch Colorado or not. You know who Travis Hunter is. I don't know if the average college football fan, if you go ask somebody in the SEC, which does drive a lot of this, whether we like it or not, they do. I don't think the average SEC fan may know who the running back at Boise is. Is that fair? Is that crazy? Whatever. We can have that own argument another time. But like the popularity contest in this, I think it's going to hurt him because he plays at Boise State.
I mean, that's definitely a possibility. And if you go look through the list of Heisman winners all time, you have to crawl all the way back to like 3 days before Zac Blackerby was born in 1951 to find a Heisman winner that was not from a Power Four, but at the time, way back when Houston used to be in the Southwest Conference, and it was the Power Six or so. You would have to go all the way back to that point in time to find a guy that wasn't from one of those places who won it. So, I mean, it just either that or a high-level independent / service academy. Those are the only teams that have had a shot since the 50s. Yeah. And I think that we need to have a moment where we look at this and we say, what do we want the Heisman to be about? Because in my opinion, Ndamukong Suh should have won it when he was at Nebraska. He absolutely was the best player in the nation. That team is much more drastically different with him than any other team was without their star. I can't fathom a world where that Nebraska team and Bo Pelini have that type of success without him. I just can't. So I look at this and I say to myself, this is a situation where we have to ask ourselves, what is it really about? But I will admit, while Ashton Jeanty deserves a look, I'm not too bold and brash to say there's not a world where Travis Hunter can convince me, hey, I'm the best player in the nation. I'm not going to say that that's impossible, because it shouldn't be about Colorado's team success. But I know if Colorado gets to 8 to 10 wins, book it. I don't care what Ashton does. Unless he rushes for 3,000, it's over. It's all over but the crime. But with that being said, again, this shouldn't be about team success. This should be about individuals and how well they're performing. And if Ashton reaches that 2,800 total yard mark, in my mind, you are absolutely robbing that man. You are telling him, hey, put your hands up before I Swiss cheese you. Give me your Heisman Trophy or else. That's what you're doing to him by giving that award to anybody else.
Ken, no quarterbacks have been brought up in this conversation. To your point earlier, is that a good thing for the state of the award?
Absolutely. Again, I am all for making the award more equitable in terms of a quarterback is not always the best player in the nation. It's just, the statistical probability that one position produces the best and most impactful player that great of a percentage of the time, it's impossible. But like we have already stated on today's episode, the Heisman is a popularity contest. And guess what makes you the coolest guy with the nicest Gucci boots and the nicest Louis Vuitton jacket? When you have that green dot on your helmet and you get to be the guy doing all the celebrations at the line of scrimmage because your wide receivers did the work for you. It's ridiculous to think that it has to be a quarterback every time, or we're not mentioning a quarterback. Is something bad happening? Oh, stop it. We would be offended if somebody said no linebackers are being mentioned since Montateo. Is this a bad thing? No defensive tackles have been mentioned since Ndamukong Suh. Are we doing something wrong here? What's going on? What's happening? We would look at them like they had 3 heads and say, brother, what? Yeah. Leave that dope alone, as Granny would say, because you ain't okay.
All right, did Missouri get exposed this weekend? What do we do with the Missouri Tigers? We'll tell you in just a moment. Right here on the 3-Point Stance. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. It doesn't matter if it's for football, for basketball, for baseball, for the theater. You want to go see a stand-up comedy show, they've got you covered. You can turn on the all-in pricing. I mean, how many times have we gone to buy a $20 ticket somewhere and we go to check out? It's like $86 and some change. That's ridiculous. Game Time, they can avoid all that for you. Just be sure to turn that feature on. You also can see the view from your seat. Nice panoramic view, so you know exactly what to expect when you get to the venue after buying your tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. The Missouri Tigers, guys, just got flat out embarrassed against Texas A&M. 41-10. It somehow felt worse than that. Are they pretenders at this point, Jay?
Oh, 100%. They're 100% pretenders. Look, it's funny because I looked at that spread when it first dropped, and it showed that Texas A&M was a 1.5-point favorite at home.
Yeah.
I said, how is the number 25 team in the country a favorite at home against the number 9 team in the country? And then I started seeing all the money was going to Missouri, and the line started to go up. As if Vegas was saying, please give me more of your money. We would like you to keep investing in this team because we know they're going to get shellacked. As soon as I saw that, that told me that Missouri's a fraud. You should not, at that high of a ranking that they are, you should not be less than 7-point favorite on the road everywhere you go. That told me. Vegas understands that. No, we inflated Missouri because of their ranking, which is why I also hate rankings before the 5th week of the season. We're going to go ahead and give them all of this love initially because their schedule is so simple. We'll see if they can make... Nope. Texas A&M took that out. They literally just bullied them the entire game. It was almost... It was actually... Of course, it was much worse than what Vanderbilt did to Alabama, but literally, Texas A&M just punched them in the mouth nonstop, and they could not stop them.
Yeah, I mean, Ken, this is a Missouri team where you go back a few weeks ago, they really struggled with Boston College. Yeah. And then the week before, or I guess 2 weeks before they play Texas A&M, they go into overtime against Vanderbilt. Now with this loss, it kind of adds some extra context to those two close calls. I mean, there's no telling. Missouri's got a tough stretch coming up. They go to UMass, which an SEC team should never go to UMass, but whatever. They host Auburn. They go to Alabama. They host Oklahoma. Like, this is about to get tougher for them.
It is going to get a lot tougher. And Missouri led the SEC in returning production. So it made sense why they were ranked that high. You look at this team and you say they're bringing a lot back from a team that beat Ohio State in the, the Cotton Bowl last year. They're bringing a lot back. They're bringing a ton of guys back. They should be okay. And they start off the season with 2 dominant wins. Yeah. And then you have a couple close games. I'm not ready to call this team complete and utter frauds just yet. But I will say something that I uttered earlier in this episode, that you are an amalgamation of your habits. The same thing goes for Missouri. Yeah. We saw the same way I talk about Bama and their struggles against USF and some of the things that kind of gave them fits then came back to give them fits again. It's the same thing for this Missouri team. It's the same thing for, hey, you are not instilling great habits in your team, Coach Drinkwitz. By the way, if you want to come back to Raleigh in the offensive coordinator capacity, we'll have you. I swear for the Lord, we'll have you. Yeah, we ain't going to argue. But in all seriousness, you are not instilling very good habits in that team. And those habits are coming out against opponents where you can get by with it. You can get by doing this. But when you get to that big boy level, when you get to that next level of squad, the same things that'll be like, we can squeak by against Buffalo. We can squeak by against Boston College. Get your shellac down there at Auburn. Get your shellac down there at Bama. Get you taken out to the woodshed by Georgia. So this team has to clean up some of their bad habits. Yeah. And I don't know if it's too late because you're at week 6. So it may be too late. They may be pretenders. That may be a possibility. But I believe that they have enough talent to at least circle the wagons and make themselves a respectable team. Maybe not SEC championship contenders, but they have enough to make themselves respectable to where they're not looking up and getting blown out by 30 every week, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. John Miller, host of Locked On Mizzou, said a lot of the same things.
Through 5 games, Missouri's playoff hopes are just that. They're all based on hope. I'm John Miller with the Locked On Mizzou podcast, and so far there is no evidence that Missouri truly is a playoff team, especially after losing in embarrassing fashion to Texas A&M. The first 4 weeks, I thought Missouri's problems were mostly fixable, but against Texas A&M, the Tigers were physically dominated on both sides of the football. That seems like a rough harbinger for the rest of the season. The only cold comfort, if you're a Missouri fan, well, Alabama was upset by Vanderbilt. Tennessee got upset by Arkansas and other unpredictable results this season. Missouri's got to turn it around, though, really quickly and get something based on other than just hope, because as we know, hope is not a strategy.
Well, and the other element to this, Kenton, is like, okay, sure, John's right. They've got to turn it around quickly, but they go to UMass. Like, we're not learning anything about this team next week.
Yeah, we're not learning anything about them.
Or you are.
They struggle.
Here's the thing. You ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, how do you get up off the mat? And number 2, if there were ever a time to course correct and figure out, hey, these are problems, we have to get them better, right? It would be against the UMass Minutemen. With all due respect to the boys up in Massachusetts, it would be this game in this moment to have this after a beatdown. This would be the moment for you to figure out, hey, we just saw, right, all that stuff that y'all were doing, all the extras, all the, I don't need to fill this gap. I can go ahead and peek my eyes over here.
Yeah.
You look at this game against UMass and say, now is the time to see what your attention span, what your focus is, how dialed in you are, because we tend to forget. Last week was bedlam. It was chaos. It was madness. But these are 18 to 22-year-olds. If somebody asks 18 to 22-year-old Josh, Jay, or Ken be the same guy every week, how would that have worked out for him? You see what I'm saying? And so
fair.
Sometimes you're going to have those dips. That does not indicate who you are. However, like Bama, we have seen multiple moments now of Mizzou taking dips that they maybe shouldn't. And so the question becomes, is that who you are? Is that the Mizzou that we should come to know?
Looking at this is the thing about this game. Missouri comes into this one against UMass as roughly a 4-touchdown favorite. If they don't win and cover this spread, we're going to have a substantial amount of questions for them. You cannot rest in this game. You cannot take your foot off the gas. You have to show us the team that beat Murray State 51-0, that beat Buffalo 38-0, because the questions for Missouri started to come up when Boston College almost beat them, right? And then Vanderbilt took them to overtime. That's when we're like, hey, this is kind of weird, because again, the fact that they were a top 10 team and they went to Texas A&M as a dog without any major injuries that changed the course of their team. I mean, look, hate to say this, Zach, but when we went to Auburn, when Oklahoma went to Auburn, when 5 wide receivers, your starting 5 wide receivers end up on the injured list.
We don't need to do this.
The spreads flipped from Oklahoma -2 to Auburn -2. That makes sense because you just lost an entire group of players that are critical to your team with the freshman quarterback.
Sure.
Literally nobody on their injury list at Missouri could have changed this spread for them whatsoever. It's like, why are you down? That tells me that everybody's looking at them like, they're not as good. And here's the last thing. 5 of their last 6 games this season in the SEC games, that is, are against teams that have shown that they can bully you if they need to. Auburn coming to town. Auburn's still going to be mad. They got a sour taste in their mouth, and they still have moments where they will punch people in the mouth.
Yeah.
Alabama going to Tuscaloosa. Oh, that's going to be a blowout. Alabama's going to be a 14-point favorite in that game, which is going to be dumb, but they're going to be 14-point favorites.
Right.
Oklahoma comes to town. Oklahoma's been punching people in the mouth lately. South Carolina, when their defensive lineman is, emptying the clip on people, their defensive line can play, right? And then Arkansas, who just upset Tennessee by muscling them. Look, Missouri better toughen up somehow, because if they don't, this is going to be a long season for the team that's supposed to have the easiest schedule.
Jay, you skip Mississippi State.
I mean, is that a real team? I mean, Stark Vegas is kind of tough to play at, but at the same time, Jeff Levy's got work to do.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, the first edition of 3 Point Stance is in the books. Hey, please subscribe to Locked On College Football's podcast feed, or click that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. We're here every day. We'll see you tomorrow. For Kenton Gibbs, for Jay Smith, I'm Zac Blackerby. This has been the 3 Point Stance.